I'm going to say, hey everyone. In one moment, you're going to meet my friend. He's actually already on, AP Steadham. AP. How do I pronounce your last name again? Because sometimes I screw it up.
That's okay. Yeah, Steadham.
Steadham. And what I'm doing right now, folks, for those of you in Zenny 62 land, is I'm calibrating the stream, and I'm going to tweet out that we are on. And if you are on as you come in, please tweet out as well. Welcome to Zenny 62 Live. That's right, we are live for Thursday night, November 9th, 2017. Glad you're here. And thank you for joining me earlier today when we watched the Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm going to tweet this out, and hey, AP, should I use hashtag Roll Tide to let people know that we're talking about, Alabama football? We're about to?
Yeah, that would be great. And then you probably can hashtag other things, Alabama football or can you
awesome idea, capital idea. I'll do that right now. The title of this is Alabama Crimson Tide Expert A.T. Steadham says Auburn over Georgia -- live stream talk. So that's exactly what we're going to discuss. In AP is a long time. He is my go-to SEC expert, which means at some point I'm going to be paying him. So, which he would love. And I think deservedly so, because AP has covered the Southeastern Conference for quite some time. And I am blessed to have known him all these years. He's got I call Southern, dare I say, Creole smoothness about him. And here he is, my friend right here, AP, live. AP, everybody, welcome, AP. And AP, how long have you covered SEC football and Alabama Crimson Tide?
Yeah, it's been over 10 years, but I grew up with it since I was a boy. So even though I might have been in a different part of the country, I had roots in Alabama. So the first time I ever recall the game, believe it or not, was the Orange Bowl of 1965 when Joe Namath was trying to sneak over the goal line against Texas at Tommy Novus.
Wow, that goes back. So, well, what is it that I'm always wanted to ask you this question, AP? What is it that makes Alabama football so good? I mean, why is it that it seems like year in and year out? I know it's the coach, because you guys had some lean years in the past. And I think we're always trying to capture that Bear Bryant-esque glory, right?
That's right. I never thought I'd see another golden age of Alabama football.
Wow. Why is that? Why did you think that?
Because Coach Bryant, he set a standard I never thought would be reached. Now, Nick Saban, I can say this right off, he can win 10 championships and he'll never duplicate the aura of Coach Bryant, because the way he phrased things and the way he had that way he was born and raised, and from Arkansas, and he had the name Bear. I mean, think about this, Sandy. You're 14 years old and you get the nickname Bear, and you're able to carry that throughout your entire life. As a matter of fact, the joke I've always said, there's bears in Arkansas walking around saying they're Paul Bryant.
How do you get that nickname, Bear Bryant? How did that come about?
Yeah, there was a traveling carnival that came to Fordyce, Arkansas. Coach Bryant's from Fordyce, Arkansas, and he was 14 years old, big, tall, gangly country boy, and he went to his granddaddy and says, "Granddad, I want to wrestle that bear." And his granddad said, "You think you can whip that bear?" He goes, "For $1, I can whip anything in Arkansas." So he was 14 years old, and the bear had a muzzle on as they went into the ring. The muzzle came off the bear and bit Coach Bryant a little bit, and he jumped out of the ring. The bear took off. He never did get his money, but he got a name.
John Marks has a question for you. He says, question for AP, did you cover football during the Ken Stabler era in the 1960s?
No, but I did Kenny, and I had written 3 stories to try to help him get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I know his family, and it was a long association because he was born in Foley, Alabama. My daddy was raised in the next town, Robertsdale. So we knew his family for many, many years. So I even have a newspaper that had Kenny Stabler Day when he finished up at Alabama. I had saved that in all my belongings when I moved out of the house not too long ago. I realized I had that newspaper.
Wow. And AP, I'm asking this as I actually am putting this on Facebook right now as we talk. But something else too that I'm curious about is it that which came first? Is it that Alabama players? How much? Let me ask this from an entirely other question. I'm trying to figure out a way to ask this I'll just ask it. How much of this Alabama success is really due to alums, demanding that there's this standard that's maintained and dare I say, they contribute to it, and what is it that makes? Is it really the alums? Is it the people of Alabama? Is it the culture? What is it? Is it in the water? What's going on? Because it's more than just Bear Bryant, right?
Yeah, that's correct. You have to realize that Alabama has their first national championship in 1925. They went out to the Rose Bowl. They were a team that thought that the University of Washington was going to crush Alabama, and they sneaked to they came out with a 1-point victory, 20-19. And Johnny Mack Brown, they call him the Dothan Antelope, ended up staying out there in California some years later and became a famous movie star, cowboy movie star. So Alabama has hit championships in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 60s, 70s, 90s, and these 2 decades, 21st century. So it was before Coach Bryant. Coach Bryant played at Alabama on the 34 team, which went to the Rose Bowl and beat Stanford. That's they played twice at Stanford in Alabama. They tied once, and Alabama beat them. So there's been championships, about a decade or so before Coach Bryant arrived. So there's that standard. They're very passionate and they care about football. So they're not going to live too long with having a coach that can't win. So that answers your question about why there's been this push to have good football at the University of Alabama. It comes from many decades. Matter of fact, I don't know if there's a college team that could say they had the championship in all those decades. If you look back at, let's say, USC, Notre Dame. Notre Dame had won championship in '88, just for an example.
Wow, that's incredible. Because so is it that, and also how much of Alabama football is about the state? What I mean by that, it might sound like a stupid question at first, but let me explain. Does every student in Alabama want to go to the university? What is their rate of retaining great players? Do they get first dabs at every great player that comes out of Alabama?
Most of the time, the split when they have the newspaper polls was in the 65-35 range. 65 favoring Alabama, 35% of the other people in the state favoring Auburn, even though Auburn is a state school and the rival of Alabama. So normally they can attract good players from the state, and then the way Nick Saban has built his program now, it's really the Notre Dame of the South. They can go to 50 states. They have a punter on there, from Colorado. They have a quarterback came in from Hawaii, he's a freshman. They have, as you know, the top player in the United States was Najee Harris from Antioch, California.
Right.
Not too many years ago, maybe Alabama can't go to California and get someone to take a visit. Jonah Williams is the left tackle, the right tackle, freshman All-American from the Sacramento area. They have Micah Fitzpatrick from New Jersey. Anthony Averett's the other cornerback from New Jersey, the Jersey Boys. So they're able to go to any state now and recruit players.
Right. I want to say hi to my regulars, Rick Rice, Go CSU Rams, John Marks. Everybody give a hearty hello to my good friend AP Steadham, we've covered the NFL draft for 10 years, something like that? It's been that long?
It's been a while. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we've had a lot of with that. You could say that. You could definitely say that again. That's for doggone sure we've had an absolute blast. And I want to cut right to the chase, and we can go downhill from there.
Oh, by the way, let me show your friend.
Yeah, sure.
This is from the Kenny Stabler party. That was some part of the swag that I received. He did a little wrist, and it says Kenny Stabler. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
And then it says Hall of Fame, but they gave us a crystal.
Hold that a little closer. Hold that up to the camera a little closer there. Yeah, I see it. It says Hall of Fame. Yeah,
And then Kenny Stabler on here on the other side. And so I have a swag bag. I went to the party. Mark, the owner of the Raiders, was there. Fred Biletnikoff, the Stabler family, and so we had a great time in Canton, Ohio. It's just kind of bittersweet. It would have been a much better party if the flamboyant left-hander was on site.
Hey, let's talk about that some before we talk about Auburn and Georgia. What do you remember most about Ken Stabler? Because I'll tell you what I remember. I remember that, first of all, he was, to me, argumentatively, one of the main arteries of the lifeblood of Raider legacy. And if you go back to some of the great plays in Raider history, the Sea of Hands, Ken Stabler was quarterback. The Immaculate Reception, sadly, he was on the other side of that play. It is fair to say that Ken Stabler was on the majority, or in the majority, of legacy plays in Oakland Raiders history. And I say Oakland Raiders because the history really, there is not a Los Angeles Raider play among the top 10 plays in Raiders history. They are all centering around the Raiders when they were in Oakland. And the majority of those, if I am not mistaken, have Ken Stabler in them. That's my memory of Ken Stabler, because I grew up in Oakland from 1974, on up. But what's your memory of Ken Stabler?
Yeah, he personified cool. I mean, the Raiders have that emblem of the pirate. Well, Kenny, he's raised near the Gulf of Mexico, around water, and he liked being in those fast speedboats. He was a left-hander, and he was always cool. I mean, cool hand Luke. That was, what is that famous saying? Sometimes nothing's a real cool hand. Well, with Kenny, you never know if he was up by 30 or down by 30. He had the same demeanor after every play. He was trying to win. And I think one of his favorite writers was, what's that gentleman has the square out there in San Francisco, Jack London.
Yeah.
And they did something to him one time, and they asked him for some profound thought. He said, "What does that mean?" Kenny goes, "Throw deep."
Throw deep.
Throw deep.
Live
your life
That's right.
Fullest. Live your life to the fullest. Don't hold back.
Throw
Go
deep.
for broke.
There you go. Throw deep. Hey, one of my viewers, CSU Rams, has an opinion. He said, could the NFL be scripting its games like the WWE scripts its games? And he says it's been on his mind for a long while, and he just, thought he'd dare ask. And why not? Ask. What do you think about that idea?
To scripting the game?
Yeah. Like, not scripting like, Bill Walsh scripting, but I think he means like scripting as in the outcome is predetermined and all that stuff, which I think personally is difficult to do, but,
Yeah, I don't think those folks are too competitive.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it can happen because that's a conspiracy, and you need quite a few people to be complicit in something to happen that's scripting outcomes.
Yeah, I agree. There's just too many people who have too much at stake. And there's also, you'd have to have the most dramatically choreographed, you know what I mean? Event in the entire world, because you've got 22 people on one side that have to cooperate, and then 22 people on the other, and you never know what's going on. Let's say you have one player that had a sudden tragedy, and all of a sudden it means more to him to win the Super Bowl, and because he needs the extra money, and so he doesn't go along with the script, and all of a sudden you got a big problem, right?
Right. I mean, Zenny, we lived this long and finally found out the identity of Deep Throat, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would take that long to find out the plays were scripted and the outcome was already predetermined.
I agree with you. Hey, so as we talk right now, Georgia is the #1 team in the college football playoff race, number one. But you say to me that Auburn, who's going to play Georgia this weekend, is going to let Georgia have it. Am I saying that correctly?
Well, I would just change that a little bit and say Auburn could win.
Okay.
I won't say that they would thrash Georgia because the Bulldogs have been playing pretty tough all season. They have a good defense, a couple of good running backs and quarterbacks, have not turned the ball over. But Auburn has a good defense at times. They have an All-American kicker, Daniel Carlson, whose granddaddy actually went to Alabama, but he ended up at Auburn.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but he's a very good kicker.
Mm-hmm.
And they have Jarrett Steadham, who I'm distantly related to.
I was going to ask, yeah.
It's way on the limb there. That's actually true. And they have a good running back, so they can create some issues for Georgia. And Jarrett's been playing rather well the last few weeks, and that's at home at Auburn. So that's a little bit of an advantage right there.
What is it about Georgia this year that makes them so good that they weren't last year or the year before that, or the year before that, or the year before that?
Yeah, I think it's the second season for Kirby Smart, that's his alma mater. He was the defense coordinator at Alabama. He waited around until Mark Richt left that program, and he did the right thing. I mean, he interviewed actually at Auburn a few years back, but I'm not sure he was offered, but it was one of the positions that he almost took, but he waited to take that Georgia position. Oh. So I think it's just being the second year of his program. He's a defensive coach. I think Denny, in any sport, I like to see the team that plays a little bit of defense. Prevent the other team from scoring so you have an opportunity to win every game.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't stop somebody, then it's like that snow rolling down the hill. It just gets bigger, and there's no way you can stop it. So Georgia's playing defense. They have a good running game, and the quarterback, Jake Fromm, young quarterback that has to substitute for the original starter, but he's played well.
Hey, folks, if you're chatting and you have a question, just type it in here for AP, and I'll ask it. And AP, you're on a radio in what, 16 outlets in Alabama? You're basically a star. Tell them about,
I'm on different stations across the state of Alabama and Pensacola, and they call me, and I the host or host, and we discuss Alabama football. And one of those stations I'm on in Pensacola, actually, Charlie Ward, the Heisman Trophy winner, is the co-host. It's always fun to speak with Charlie about the Heisman Trophy race, which I have a vote, and to speak about Alabama football. Charlie's coaching down at Booker T. Washington High School. And matter of fact, one of his players, Alex Leatherwood, is a outstanding freshman offensive tackle at Alabama.
Whoa! Hey, so you have a vote in this year's Heisman race. Can you talk about that vote, or is it a secret?
Well, I can't tell you who I would vote for, but I can just discuss some of the players maybe that are under consideration. I can't disclose my vote until after the final tabulation.
Can you say who you think is the leader right now, or can I just throw out a name like Saquon?
I would just say that Saquon Barkley, you're going to review his body of work, absolutely, because he's a dynamic player that's leading his team. I mean, even though they lost, they're scoring points because of Saquon Barkley. Then you have the running back at Stanford, was it Bryce Love? Is that his name? Bryce Love, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma, the quarterback. Those are some of the players that have come to the forefront of the race. But there's a lot of football to be played, especially in the championship game against some tough rivalry games. So I would hold my vote to the very last day. You could submit it online.
Someone else said Chubb, the Georgia running back, is and has been good. Is Nick Chubb arguably a Heisman candidate?
I don't think he is here. I think earlier in his career, he actually had 150 yards against Alabama 2 years ago in the rain over at Athens. Mm-hmm. One of the runs was 75 yards, but Alabama really put a beat down. It didn't affect the outcome, even though he had 150 yards.
I remember that game.
Right. It was came pouring down after the game because Clemson played. Clemson hosted Notre Dame. I remember that night driving back to Atlanta and listening to that game over on the radio.
Hey, speaking of Notre Dame, you told me something we were talking to prepare for this that I thought was a fascinating statistic to share. You said that when Georgia beat Notre Dame, it was the first time they played a team north of the Mason-Dixon line since when?
I believe it was 1965. They played Michigan and they won that game, and it was just a one-game series, I believe. You can check that out. Maybe they really wants to check that out for me. But, yeah, that's what I follow because I just can't remember Georgia going up to play, let's say, Penn State. They played them in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, they didn't play the Big Ten team that I know of unless it was in a bowl game in Florida or Pittsburgh and New Orleans, something like that. But folks can check that out. But that's what I stand by. That's what I recall.
All right, so my friend Baus is on, and he says he wants your reaction to this statement. He says that if Auburn beats Georgia, he believes 1,000% that means that Georgia will beat Alabama in the SEC title game. I know there's a lot of football, but what are your thoughts about that observation?
Well, I'm going to Starkville on Saturday. I'll be in Starkville. Sometimes they call it Stark Vegas.
Yeah.
If I was your friend and he was that confident, I'd be making that call from Las Vegas. I mean, if you can say with certainty, tell me I'll be on the next plane. I'll be out there. I'll carry the money that we place the bet. That's a deal. That's a deal. We can do that. But it'll be a good competitive game, I suspect. When Alabama plays Auburn, and hopefully, if they win that game, of course, play Georgia. They won the East right now, the SEC division. But when teams are so evenly matched, it's going to be a couple plays to make the difference. Mm-hmm. Maybe Alabama has had very few turnovers this season. I think Jalen Hurts has one interception. I think they have a couple fumbles. Maybe it's 3 turnovers for the entire year. I mean, for instance, Alabama played Mississippi State. Their quarterback has 10 interceptions this year already. He leads the league. So, but maybe Alabama has a bad day. They put Ole Miss a few years ago, had 5 turnovers and lost the game. Might even have a fumble in here. Maybe it was 6, but at least 5. So they lost the game to Ole Miss by a touchdown. Even though they had made all those mistakes, they came back within the touchdown and were driving. And, of course, they threw another interception.
Wow. Hey, so we're on with AP Steadham of Alabama Crimson Tide media coverage fame. He's covered Alabama the SEC for the last 10 years and the NFL draft as well. And I can't think of anybody more knowledgeable or valuable to turn to about Alabama Crimson Tide football in the SEC. And so we'll continue our questions. And AP, talk about focusing on Georgia, since you also look at the SEC as well. What is it that Kirby Smart did this year that he didn't do last year? Was last year just a matter of the players getting used to him? And what is Kirby Smart bringing to Georgia football that it didn't have before?
I think probably they tightened up a little bit more on defense. They brought over Mel Tucker, who was at Alabama. He was a good assistant for Nick Saban, and he had been with Coach Saban at some other stops along the way, just as Kirby has throughout his career. So defensively, it's Zenny, when I asked the players in the NFL, how big is the playbook compared to Alabama's? And what they normally tell me is the NFL playbook is, I'll just use my fingers here, it's about 1 inch thick, and then at Alabama, it's 2 inches thick. Wow. So you would think it would be the other way around, right? Yeah. Defensive playbook. So it's a little bit complicated. I mean, Alabama, one of the critiques of Nick Saban, sometimes some of his coaches, they do not like so many defensive plays because you're bringing in the top talent with speed, but it takes them a year and a half to get on the field because they have to learn the defensive playbook. So essentially, if they're very good, you only have them another year and a half because they're leaving up to the year. So that's some of the whispers that you hear from assistant coaches. They just like to slim down that defensive playbook because you're recruiting and developing the fastest, most talented players. Let them play fast.
Wow. Hey, so that's interesting. So basically the Alabama defense is more complicated than the typical NFL defense?
That's what they've said. That's what the players tell me. After they've been in the league, I've interviewed some NFL players, and they'll make that known to me. And I always try to put that out there because people don't understand, well, why is so-and-so coming in as an All-American maybe defensive back, but he hadn't seen the field in a year and a half. Well, it takes a little time to learn the playbook.
Hey, we're on with AP Steadham, and hey, Barry Lee, if you're on and you're on Twitter, if you could tweet this out under hashtag Crimson Tide, that would be fantastic. Hey, AP, also, since he's covered Alabama, is an expert on, among other things, the man who is now the Oakland Raiders star wide receiver, Amari Cooper. And
Correct.
He was the star. He was the man at Alabama, but he's had his ups and downs with the NFL. I don't know if you had a chance to at least maybe, can an eye toward him, but what's your read about how well Amari Cooper's doing in the pros?
Amari's first 2 years, I think he did very well. I mean, that's not my opinion. I think that's just the facts. But for whatever reason right now, I don't know if he's trying too hard. What's funny is that when I covered Julio Jones, I knew him since high school.
Yep.
And in freshman year, he was fantastic. He set the record. I think he had 59 or 60 receptions. I think it was 59 or 50. And then Amari came in and broke that record, caught 60. But his sophomore year, they would run these short patterns over the middle. And Julio, he was so excited to receive the ball because he was looking downfield to see if he could run. He has the best stiff arm I've ever seen when he's running to the right. His left arm is the best stiff arm I've ever seen. He was dropping the ball.
Huh.
He was dropping the ball as a sophomore at a little slump because he just was not concentrating on catching the football. So I suspect that Amari's going through some of those things right now. Maybe he's not looking the ball into his hands, and he's concerned about making yardage after the catch. But it has nothing to do with ability, as you saw in the first 2 years.
Mm-hmm. No, I remember against Kansas City, he had, I believe, 5 receptions for 210 yards this year, and it was his breakout game. And it went along with something that I observed, and I like your opinion on, and I said that at Alabama, Amari Cooper was the man. They schemed for him, threw to him, and with the Raiders, it seemed to me like they weren't scheming for him and throwing to him. And then there was that Kansas City game where it was obvious that they had schemed for him and threw to him, and he became the man. Is it that some players, when they get in the NFL, maybe they're not treated as the star they were in college, and so maybe they get a little lazy or maybe disinterested,
Right. No, Amari, he's a tremendous worker on the field, very quiet, but confident. So I don't think it has anything to do with his work ethic or being disinterested. I just think it was that little focus on he's having a little issue. He's trying to make yards after catch instead of first receiving the football. You have to go through the steps, 1, 2, 3. The first most important thing is to catch the football. Then you're facing the defense to make the play, right?
Absolutely.
So maybe that got in his mind a little bit. But, Zenny, at Alabama, I think his junior year, he caught, I think, 127 passes. I never thought I'd ever see the day when an Alabama football player would catch over 100. So I don't think that record will be broken. Although Calvin Ridley, here now, he reached a 200 reception mark, and Amari has the record to be at 228. So Calvin could break the record overall. But I don't think you're going to see someone at Alabama catch over 120 passes like Amari. Lane Kiffin had that offense where he throws a double screen and get Amari the football. But I think if you stick with Amari, give up on Amari.
Mm-hmm. Oh, AP, we lost your sound for a little bit there.
Okay.
Yeah, I just heard you there, so you came back. Go ahead. Let me
hang tough with Amari. You saw his ability and his work the first couple seasons, and I believe he'll rebound.
So what are your thoughts on, you mentioned Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin was the offensive coordinator. What are your thoughts on how Alabama, how many offensive coordinators has Alabama went through over the past 3 years or 4 years?
Yeah, 3. Let me see if I can remember all of them since Nick Saban's been here 11 years. The first one, I believe, was Major Applewhite. You remember the former Texas quarterback?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Major Applewhite was named after Major Ogilvy, the running back from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Major was from Baton Rouge and he went to Texas, but I think his parents had some connection to Alabama. He was there a year. Then I believe they brought in, after that, I believe it was Jim McElwain.
Yep.
I think that's right.
Yep.
And he was there. They won some championships and things. Then they brought in Doug Nussmeier.
Mm-hmm.
McElwain had with him at Florida. That staff just got released, and then they brought in Lane Kiffin, and now they have Brian Dable from the New England Patriots. I think he was the tight end coach with the Patriots, possibly.
Yeah.
So that's how many have Major, McElwain, Nussmeier, Lane Kiffin, and Dable. So that's five.
Are we forgetting Steve Sarkisian?
For one game.
For one game. For one game.
I forgot. So that's what do you call that? 5 1/10 or something?
Yeah.
5.1 or something? I don't know. You brought you covered for me.
We're on with AP Steadham. I'm going to tweet this out one more time. AP, do you have a predictive score for me for Saturday in terms of who you think is going to prevail, or are you? I know you say it's going to be close, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but okay, I am putting you on the spot.
Yeah. No, that's fine. For the Alabama Mississippi State game in Starkville, you have all the cowbells ringing. I believe it'll be something in the neighborhood of 27-13 Alabama.
27-13 Alabama. There you go. 27-13 Alabama, says AP. And while I've got you on here, I don't know how much longer you go through. I know we said a half an hour, but are you game to go just a little longer?
Sure, yeah. For you, Kenny.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate
that. I know you buy me an ice cream out there.
You got it. Definitely, man. Yeah, definitely.
I love those chocolate milkshakes and chocolate sundae, hot fudge sundaes, and those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm in suburban Atlanta right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm actually closer to you than being on the West Coast, and but I'll be going back next week for the Cal Stanford big game, which is exciting because Cal is 5-5. They're one win away from being bowl eligible, and then of course Stanford's already, I believe, in pretty much the same shape as Cal, maybe just a game better. But the point is that Stanford has never been so close to Cal in terms of performance as this year. So it's going to be an exciting big game. I can't wait to go. I hope things work out where I can get back and see it, and then I've got to come back here for Thanksgiving. But
Denny, where is that game? Berkeley or Palo Alto?
Say again?
Where is that game being played, in Berkeley or Palo Alto?
Palo Alto, it's Stanford, on the farm. On the farm. Yep, on the farm. Which means
I visited both of those practices before. I've been to watch Cal practice with Jared Goff, and I've seen Christian McCaffrey practice as well on campus.
Did you go to McCaffrey's Pro Day?
I didn't go to the Pro Day. I wasn't out there. I was out there for a practice in the summertime.
Oh, okay.
Like August.
I saw McCaffrey personally run over us too many times. I mean, too many times. And let me go over and see if there's anybody that has a question. Folks, if you have a question, post it here and right there. And with that, I'll continue with the conversation. Hey, AP, I want to talk about something that happened. And this was with Mississippi. I want to talk about, maybe you can enlighten me about Mississippi State and Hugh Freeze and that mess. What? Because I only know about it from the perspective. Remember Laramie Tunsil and the whole.
Yes.
Right. Okay. What did Hugh Freeze do that was so wrong?
Well, let's say that he was making phone calls to a female other than his wife.
Oh. Okay. I did not know that. Wow. I did not know that.
And it wasn't one or two.
It was, holy cow. I did not know that.
And I think the backdrop, Zenny, is the fact that you're professing to be a strong, a religious person.
Sure.
And then you're conducting yourself in that manner. I don't think it strikes a harmonious chord.
No, it doesn't. So it sounds like Bobby Petrino at Arkansas with respect to Jessica Dorrell. Remember that?
Right, but I don't think Bobby ever professed to be some type of saint with a halo.
That's true.
That's different. I understand it too. In other words, what you do is between you and your wife, and that's fine with me. Mm-hmm. But if you walk around and you're professing to be a strong religious person, and then the next thing comes to light that somebody in South Florida gives most of your attention and it's not your wife, I'd say you have a problem.
I agree. Absolutely agree. And then also there was this issue about he and Laramie Tunsil, because I remember at the draft, and this was 2000, you remember 2015 in Chicago, 2016 in Chicago, where Tunsil had basically admitted on camera, in fact, it's on Zenny62 here on YouTube, at the 240 mark, he said, hey, he got money from Hugh Freeze. And, and I thought, wow, that was something else. But then there was a guy remember that journalist in the audience that I think that wasn't too happy? He didn't seem like he really liked Tunsil. I don't know if he was like the local beat guy or whatever, but wasn't that the other problem, is that Hugh Freeze maybe was helping his players too much?
Yeah, I mean, you're only allowed to get board tuition.
Yeah.
Family issue. I mean, there are funds if somebody needs a jacket, if you have a death in the family. There is a huge fund, millions of dollars that college players can obtain to help them in certain situations, but not the kind that Laramie Tunsil divulged.
And he said, now Joseph Binsman has a question. He says, do you believe, other than Alabama, the SEC is now at an even level of talent with the other big conferences, or do you still think it's ahead of the other big conferences in terms of talent? In other words, do you think the SEC is at or way above the other conferences?
Well, I would say the way I'm going to answer this question is individual talent. You kind of, I think you can look at the NFL and say X amount of players from this conference were drafted each year. So I'm not talking about the teams individually. I'm just talking about the players drafted. So the SEC has led that for a number of years. I don't know how many exactly, but I can't recall the last time a conference had more players drafted than the SEC. Maybe you know that, Cindy. I just don't know off the top of my head. But so when you're having an outside opinion say that the SEC it has the top talent, it's not the people in the SEC making those statements. It's the NFL where they pay for play.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that's like a third party.
Yep.
Don't believe what I'm telling you. Just look at the facts. So that's why I would answer that question.
No, that's I agree with you, because the SEC had far and away the most players drafted in every draft I've covered, going back to 2005. I can't remember a year the SEC was second to any other conference, and that's just a fact. And I'll just interrupt you for a second.
Yeah. I apologize. What I was going to say was, even if there was a conference that was ahead of them, I'm not even sure I can remember the conference.
Right.
Could it be Pac-12? Could it have been the Big Ten? I really don't remember.
Right. I mean, I think you'd have to reach back before I covered the NFL draft to maybe talk about the now dead Southeast Conference, right? Not Southeast Conference. I mean Southwest Conference with
Southwest Conference,
right? With SMU and Baylor, and a lot of those teams moved over to the SEC.
A couple of them moved over. Arkansas, they abandoned that conference 1990. Mm-hmm. Missouri has come over in the last, I think it's about 4 years, maybe something like that. Mm-hmm. And then Texas A&M came in the last, maybe 10 years now? I can't recall. Yeah. That's 3 teams out of that old Big 12 Southwest Conference.
Hey, I'm curious, what is your read on Nick Saban's philosophy? Because I remember to me, this is my take on Nick Saban, having had one short interview moment with him, in Philadelphia, and I was asking about Cam Robinson, who's become a
Right.
standout left tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he was actually the guy the Raiders should have drafted, you know? And so, but they were basically, you know how they handle the guys on the red carpet at the NFL draft. They were
Yes.
ushering Coach Saban off to his next appointed round. And I said, Coach Saban, and I'm yelling this out to him. And I said, Coach Saban, Cam Robinson is the antidote to Myles Jarrett. And I keep, he turned right around, and this is on camera. He turned right around and came right back to me. And I said, Coach, could you talk about Cam Robinson, your outstanding left tackle? And he gave me a great spiel. He sounds like a guy who protects his players and really just stands by his players. And it's almost like a marketing agency for his players, as much as he is for the Crimson Tide as an organization, right?
Yes, he's very devoted to his players. Put forth the effort, the maximum effort. He'll stand by you at all times. I mean, it's in his interest, but I really believe that he likes his players. He loves his players, and it's best for him is to give a good evaluation, true evaluation to the NFL teams, because when they come to him, and if he fabricates something, then they're not going to call him anymore for an explanation about where to draft that particular player. So he's a very devoted person to his players, and when you caught his attention, because it was a chance for him to say something positive about Cam Robinson.
Yeah, that's what I love, because he's that way. Dabo Sweeney's like that. Urban Meyer. I mean, I was quite impressed with the line of coaches that, they really take time and they fight for their players. And it seems like Nick Saban's right at the top of the food chain of doing that. But beyond that, how would you, given that it looks like these organizations are on a collision course talking about the college programs of Alabama and Georgia, how would you compare Kirby Smart's coaching style as it's evolving as a head coach with Nick Saban?
Yeah, I haven't watched him a lot, Zenny, on the sideline, but in Alabama, he's very vociferous, animated. So I don't think that's the proper decorum for a head coach. So I haven't had a chance to watch him on the sideline for a long time, because I'm always at the game on Saturdays, the Alabama game from away. So, but I would think hopefully he toned it down, because you want to be you want to have all your wits about you to make these crucial decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, you need somebody else to be playing the Kirby Smart role for Georgia, of jumping around, getting the players motivated. But I never cared for that style. I mean, if you had to hoot and holler to get somebody to perform, you're the wrong player, I think.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. But it sounds like the real secret weapon for Georgia has been their offensive coordinator, from what they say around here in Georgia, But, or maybe, what are your thoughts on that,
Yeah, they're playing very well. They're one of the top teams scoring in the league. So you relieve that pressure on your defense if your offense is scoring a lot of points. So, you want to be balanced. You want to have special teams. I mean, if you, like at Alabama right now, the biggest thing on special teams is Alabama catching the punt.
Yes.
They had three different people in there one game, and they all dropped the punt. So this one particular player, Davian Marsh, catching the football, and everybody gives a big cheer, because the other two people, although very talented, they can't hold on to the football. Now it's in everybody's head. I've never seen it where it's overcome the entire team. They can't catch a punt.
Like catching a cold.
Right. It's unbelievable. I've just never seen Alabama where they could not field the punt. But now they have this one player. He's catching the football. He hasn't made too many returns, because it's been very good coverage against Alabama. But everybody's happy that he's indeed making, fair catching the ball or having a little return.
Well, AP, I know it's getting late. It's almost 11 o'clock your way, almost midnight, and I didn't want to take up too much of my gift of your additional time. I appreciate it. very much.
Oh, all my pleasure, Zenny. Be glad to do it anytime, and it's always good to talk with you.
Hey, tell them how they can find you on Twitter, on the airwaves, Bama Mag. Where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. It's on my Twitter account is at Steadham, and on Facebook as well. They can find me. And then what happens in is Bama Mag has merged about a month or so ago with Bama Online, so it's on Bama Online now.
Okay.
And if Bama Mag in there, I think it'll take it to Bama Online. But that Bama Mag was started over 35 years ago by our editor, Chris McNair.
Wow.
Sports information director for Coach Bryant at that time in the 70s. And the only thing that beat Bama Mag to the punch was a magazine about Kentucky basketball by a few months.
Wow.
Right. That's the truth.
Oh, wow.
So,
AP, I'm gonna have you back.
Yeah, tell them to hit me up on Facebook, Twitter. Reach out. Be glad to answer any questions.
And I'm gonna have you back before the SEC championship.
Okay, Zenny, that's great. And safe travels back to California.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, Zenny. Thank you now.
Okay, see you. All right. Folks, that's my longtime friend, AP Steadham. He's the expert on all things SEC football, and in particular, the Alabama Crimson Tide. And you heard him. He picks that. He says that it's going to be a close game between Auburn and Georgia. It's going to be tight. And however, he says that if you believe that Georgia is going to beat that Auburn, or rather Auburn is going to beat Georgia, and that then Georgia is going to automatically beat Alabama in the SEC title game, he says he would love to meet you in Las Vegas and bet some of that money you got, provided that you're covering the bet. AP's a great guy, and like I said, I've known him for 12 years, since we've covered the NFL draft in New York, and then he came out to cover Raiders game. We had dinner at Fisherman's Wharf, and AP is just a smooth guy. He's a good guy, and always the same. What you see is what you get. He's very even keel, very comfortable, very much a student of not just the game, but a student of the legends of the game. He can talk to you about Kenny Stabler or his family. He could talk to you about Julio Jones. He could talk to you about Amari Cooper. He can talk to you about pretty much any Alabama player that you can think of, for the most part. In particular, even though, yeah, that's him. That really is him. So with that, this is gonna be a short stream, because I did a stream earlier today on the Raiders, and I'm gonna get some rest here tonight. And we'll be back on Sunday with our normal 8:30 live stream. Godfather Grizz is working his you-know-what off, but he'll be back as well. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for chiming in and hearing my interview with AP Steadham. You can, of course, catch him on Twitter, at AP Steadham, and he's a Facebook friend of mine. So if you were connected on Facebook with me, you can find him and connect with him and find out about what's happening with SEC, and in particular Alabama Crimson Tide football. All right. So everybody, thank you all for watching, and see you again on Zenny 62 Live. All right.